What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, continuing my deep dive into Deep Purple's live catalog. I've done the studio catalog elsewhere on this channel years ago, and I was coming back, had not listened to Deep Purple in a couple years, was feeling that Deep Purple, like I knew I was going to do like a month-long intense listening period where I like hit a bunch of albums. So I thought, let's take advantage of that and do a deep dive into their live catalog. We're on live album number 2. We're going to go chronologically. And because we're going chronologically, and because this is made in Japan, and because there's a whole other, like there's a 3 CD set, there's the set that just has encores, there's like remastered, not just encores, but they add the encores. There's all these other versions of this album, the concerts that this album was taken from. Does that make sense? The tracks on here were taken from several concerts in 72. Those have been released. I'm just doing the album. The original in Europe 1972 album, in the States 1973 album, made in Japan, a double live album of the Mark II version of Deep Purple, the probably quintessential Deep Purple lineup. Blackmore, Glover, Pace, Gillen. I always pronounce that wrong, and I always get corrected in the comments. I am sorry. Us Americans do not know how to pronounce words. Gillen and Lord. Fantastic. Yeah, there's like 47 different versions of this that have been released, but we're going with the original 7-song release. Pretty much the main set of this tour, of the 72 tour, or at least these Japan shows, August 16th. It was like 15th, 16th, and 17th. These are derived from. It was generally a 7-song main set. Those are the 7 songs that are here. There were generally 2 encores. Those are not on this release. Those encores being, I think, Black Knight was played on all 3 nights. Speed King was on one night. A song called Lucille, which was a cover, I believe. Yeah, cover. And then Speed King was played on the 3rd night. But those aren't on this. They're on other releases. 7 songs. One of the greatest live albums of the 1970s. This is Deep Purple at their peak. Everybody sounds fantastic. The drums, amazing. The bass stands out on many a song. The vocals, awesome. At times I feel like whatever success, I'm not really sure what success or what acclaim came after Jesus Christ Superstar, but there are moments in here, especially like at the end of Child in Time, where I just feel like Ian is given that Jesus Christ Superstar just bravado and performance. And the end of Child in Time, where he's like making those weird little noises, kind of remind me like the screams, but they're not rock and roll screams. They're like different types of screams. Reminds me of I think it's the crucifixion scene in Jesus Christ Superstar, when he's like, Dad, what have I done? Why did we do this? And he's making those noises. Ian seems like he's channeling that energy at the end of Child in Time. Bass is John Lord on organ is fantastic. The bass is fantastic. Everything. Blackmore sounds like he's having fun. It's an absolutely amazing release. If I have complaints, I have 2 of them. In order to make it fit on vinyl, I'm assuming, because it was originally released on vinyl, not on CD. In order to make it fit on vinyl, they switched songs 2 and 3 in the set list. So the original set list was Highway Star opener, Smoke on the Water, fantastic second choice. Smoke on the Water was not yet Smoke on the Water, still a fantastic second song. And then Child in Time. For the release, they switched Smoke on the Water and Child in Time so that the songs can fit on a side of music. I'm assuming that's why. I don't think Child in Time works as well as the second song. This is still an absolutely brilliant performance. But I do think it's just too early in the set. You need the Highway Star. You need the 1-2 punch of Highway Star and something else just upbeat and ferocious before you kind of calm things down in Child in Time, before you then build things up and make them explode in Child in Time. But, for the sake of releasing this as an album, they switched the order. Everything else is in the correct order it appeared in the show, minus, as I said, the encores. That was complaint number one. Complaint number two, the mule has a 6-minute drum solo. I don't need 6-minute drum solos. I love the first, minute 40 of the mule and the last minute 40 of the mule, that weird little kind of slightly proggy hard rock little instrumental, that little section of the song, or those themes and those melodies. I don't need the drum solo, but it's there. So that's another minor complaint. Another thing I've seen people complain about that I am not going to complain about is Space Truckin' is about 20 minutes long. The first, essentially, almost exactly 5 minutes is a blistering, perfect, high energy, fully adrenalized version of Space Truckin', the song we know from the album. Then they essentially go into like this 15-minute jam. It starts off with like a really long Lord organ jam. Then it kind of brings things down. Blackmore kind of plays around a little bit. Things get kind of weird and spacey in there. We eventually build up into this absolutely epic closing jam that is just ridiculously sick. You get some Mandrake Root thrown in there. You get some Fools thrown in there. So you get little bits and pieces of other stuff, but it is an overly indulgent sort of hippie-ish jam type thing that I don't necessarily think is Deep Purple's strength. But Space Truckin' is the last track in the actual concert. It was the final song before the encores. Yeah, jam out as much as you want before you leave the stage and make me go home. I'm okay with it. If it had been maybe the first song, don't do it. Even if somewhere in the middle, it might not have worked. I think it works really well as a closing track. What else? So essentially 7 songs. Highway Star is an opener. Awesome version of Highway Star. Blistering version of Highway Star. My favorite part of this song is after they do that middle run where they're like Lord and Blackmore are playing that riff that they play that just gets faster and faster and faster. Then there's this little brief interlude where like they're transitioning back into the vocals and Blackmore's just making like weird noises and like not really soloing as much as just providing like pyrotechnics on the guitar. That little pocket of pyrotechnics in this version of Highway Star is just off the chart. Absolutely amazing. Fantastic. Blackmore just sounds so much fun. Then they go back into the vocals. Child in Time just sounds huge. They nail every part about this. The bass sounds amazing. Blackmore's solo is amazing. It is interesting, Blackmore's playing in Child in Time and in a lot of sort of his solos. I always feel like Blackmore has sort of an antagonistic relationship with the rhythm section, and that he's like, I'm aware of what you're doing and I know what you're planning on doing, but I'm just going to do this all over top of you. It's like he's literally scribbling his solo over something that's already like been like he has a coloring book of the rhythm section and what their like plan is for the solo, and he's just scribbling over it, and they're like, okay, we got to adapt somehow. But it works. That's one of the reasons I really, really like Blackmore as a guitarist, is it almost seems like a lot of his solos are just Xenocraty, taking one solo from one source and a rhythm section from a different source and overlaying them. And it almost feels like a lot of the time Blackmore's approach is to create that weird conflict where we're going to hook up and meet up every like X number of bars, but they're not going to be predictable. And maybe we never meet up, but either way, I'm going to do something fascinating on guitar. This one, in this Child in Time, he starts so ridiculously in the pocket. Like he is right in that groove hard. He is there. He is grounded. But then he's like, all right, boys, I'm gone. And he just takes off. And it's almost like the rhythm section has to catch up with him and he just doesn't care. And he's just like, just shredding back and forth all over the place. But it's absolutely exhilarating. The finale is huge. The singing for Gillan is just fantastic. A beautiful Child in Time, absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it's epic. Smoke on the Water is the next track. Essentially opens the side B. Blackmore messes around with that opening riff a lot. I think he plays it and he kind of inverts it and oververts it and just does all this weird stuff to it before actually playing it serious, and then they go into the song. The intro is fantastic. Blackmore solo is fantastic. Lorde gets a really nice closing solo that's fantastic. Smoke on the Water, every time I ever saw Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water was already Smoke on the Water, and I think it was an end of the show, if not an encore number, almost every time. I like it early in the show. I know it wasn't yet Smoke on the Water here. It had yet to build up decades of legendary, classic radio status. But it's a good early in the show song. It should have stayed not an opener. I think having it as second in the original set list or even third, it just works better. I don't know. There's something really nice about it. Then we get the mule, which sounds great. They hit it hard. They're excited to play it. We get a 6-minute drum solo. You put that in whatever column you want to put that in. We get a really nice Strange Kind of Woman. Really nice, jammed out, Strange Kind of Woman. Such an awesome, fun song. Blackmore solo is fantastic. The tone, the energy. This is one of those that never feels like it fits in the song, but it always is perfect for this song. We get that really cool post-lyrics kind of section where they are playing around. This one is grooving. Like Blackmore, again, is in the pocket. He's actually sounds like he's playing with the band. I mean, it is a very just... the middle solo is Blackmore being Blackmore and being almost, contentious with what's going on. The end solo, it's just a pure jam. Like, this is them showing they can do this stuff. They can jam like a jam band. It's fantastic. Blackmore sounds like he's having fun. They do that playful thing at the end. I was at the Strange Kind of Woman that's on Nobody's Perfect. Irvine Meadows, 88, I believe that was. 87, 88, maybe 87. But that one is fun. That's the one they're playing around, and yeah, it's just really good, really good. But I was at that one. I loved Strange Kind of Woman. Love that weird breakdown at the end. Then we get a Lazy, one of my all-time favorite songs. Lorde gets a good 3 minutes in the beginning to like make really, really loud organ noises, spacey noises, just kind of set the tone before we get the very first sort of Blackmore coming in with the jazzy solo in. We get the first like drop, the actual song drop in, that actual lick happening about 3.5 minutes in. And then, we play around and then boom, we're in it. And it just feels like the party starts. It feels like the first 3.5 minutes is like, oh, Lorde's showing up. All right, Lorde, do what you have to do. Oh, Blackmore's here. All right, the drummer's here. And then everybody gets there. We drop that lick. We're off. The band is swinging hard. This has such a great swinging groove to it. Blackmore solo is fantastic. We get a nice sort of breakdown towards the end where we break down and, Blackmore gets to play around. And then we just get more jamming. It's just such a great, exhilarating, high energy jam song, and I do think that's my all-time favorite Deep Purple, like that. That just gets me every time, and I love, and through the ages to see like Steve Morse play this, and I love just hearing different incarnations of Deep Purple playing Lazy of all songs. I don't know why, makes me happy, but these are the OGs doing it. Fantastic. And then we get Space Truckin'. Closing out the final side 4, side D, 20 minutes of music, a killer Space Truckin', 5 minutes of just an exhilarating version of Space Truckin'. And then we get a really long organ solo. The band comes back in, it kind of breaks down. Blackmore plays around for a while, does some feedback stuff, some weird spacey stuff, brings it way down. Things get weird and jammy, and then we get this absolutely sick jam at the very end. Great. I think it's a great Space Truckin'. I've seen complaints about this throughout the years that this is not their forte. This is not what they should be doing. But hey, it's the last track on the album. It's the last song in the main set. Let them go crazy. And Lorde's solo is fantastic. So it might be overindulgent, but at least Lorde gets a chance to really, really shine. It's a pretty long solo. Yeah, it's like almost 6 minutes long. It's pretty good, pretty awesome. But yeah, I love this album. If you're a Deep Purple fan and you have not heard this, you are missing out. This is just arguably the best version of the band, and just, this is their Apex Mountain, man. This is their absolute best. Like, in the perfect world, I get to hear this version of Deep Purple, this 72 band, playing songs from other eras. That would be fantastic. But I'll take this. I'll take this version. This is an absolutely awesome, awesome live album. Where would I rank it on my list of live albums so far? It's number one. It's better than the Concerto. The Concerto is interesting. It has some absolutely fantastic jams in it. The band part of that hits it out of the ballpark every time they show up. But this album is just, it's one of the best live albums, rock and roll live albums ever in the history of ever. It is. It just is. Should probably just quit now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do all of these Deep Purple albums. There's a lot of them. So anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all those things. You know how this works. And if you haven't heard this, or if you haven't heard this in a while, go back and revisit it. Like every time I look at this, I'm like, wow, I know all these songs. I've heard all these songs so many times. But then I put on this album, I'm like, yeah, but these versions, they're killing it. They're killing it. All right, peace. Talk to you later.